Marriage is not a noun, it's a verb. It isn't something you get, it's something you do. Barbara DeAngelis. What if everything you believed about marriage wasn't entirely true? What if the love you've always dreamed of, the fairy tale ending, comes with unexpected truths? Have you ever wondered why so many couples, even after years of love, start to drift apart, feeling disconnected and lost? Hello and welcome back to the Son.Mindfulness channel. I'm so glad you're here with us today, because we're about to dive deep into a topic that affects millions of people: marriage. And not just any marriage, but the deeper, more complex side of it, the part that most of us don't talk about. In this video, we're going to explore the often hidden aspects of marriage, from the loss of individual identity, to unmet expectations, to the struggle between ego and love. Why is this so important? Because understanding these challenges is the key to transforming your relationship into something stronger, more conscious, and more fulfilling. Here's something to think about. Many of us enter marriage with grand expectations. We expect it to be a lifelong fairy tale filled with endless happiness and perfect connection. But the reality can be quite different. The emotional connection we seek can sometimes fade, replaced by routine, misunderstandings, and unmet emotional needs. Have you ever felt like your marriage isn't living up to the dream you had when you first said, "I do"? Do you sometimes wonder how to navigate the challenges that seem to arise out of nowhere? At Son.Mindfulness, we believe that marriage, just like any part of life, is about growth, awareness, and understanding. Through this video, we'll share valuable insights and practical steps to help you not only recognize the struggles in your relationship, but also how to address them mindfully. Marriage isn't just about finding someone to share your life with. It's about learning, evolving, and growing both as individuals and as partners. If this resonates with you, make sure to subscribe and join our Son.Mindfulness community. We're here to explore not only marriage, but also a range of topics related to mindfulness, personal growth, and how we can create stronger, more fulfilling relationships in our lives. Take a moment to click the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of our new content designed to inspire and guide you on your journey to peace, happiness, and personal growth. Now stay with us until the end of this video, because we'll dive deep into how you can use these insights to transform your own relationship. What if you could turn your struggles into opportunities for deeper connection? Join us as we explore how to confront the hidden truths in marriage, and how you can create a relationship that is not only strong, but thriving. Are you ready to discover the deeper side of marriage? Let's dive into the first lesson right now. Part 2. Marriage. An initial overview. Marriage is often envisioned as a sacred promise, a commitment between two people to join their lives, share love, and grow together. It's seen as the highest form of connection, a promise to weather life's storms together and to find joy and fulfillment. It's meant to be a lifelong journey, where both partners walk hand in hand toward a shared future. But as beautiful as it sounds, how often do we understand the full weight of this promise before saying, "I do"? Marriage is not just a romantic fairy tale. It's also a path that involves sacrifices, challenges, and most importantly, growth. What begins as a dream may gradually reveal itself as a much more complex journey than we first imagined. Marriage as a promise. Marriage is often portrayed as the ultimate bond. We enter it with grand expectations, peace, happiness, and a sense of purpose. It's the ideal we all aspire to. A union where two people find comfort, stability, and unconditional support. It's seen as the safe harbor, the place where love flourishes and both individuals feel seen, heard, and understood. But what happens when the reality of marriage doesn't always match this ideal? How many of us truly consider the depth of the promise we make in that moment? Marriage is not just about the good moments. the shared laughter, or the intimate conversations. It's also about supporting each other through hard times, facing the unexpected, and making difficult decisions together. When we say "I do," we're not just entering a partnership of love and joy. We're stepping into a partnership of growth, understanding, and sometimes sacrifice. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself what that promise truly means? Initial expectations. When we first enter marriage, it's often with stars in our eyes. Everything feels fresh, exciting, and new. There's a rush of passion, an unspoken connection that makes everything feel like it's exactly where it's meant to be. The early days are filled with sweet emotions. The excitement of discovery, shared dreams, and endless affection. The world feels like a perfect place when you're in love. Every moment spent together feels special. The thought of spending your life with someone feels like the best decision you've ever made. There's this sense of invincibility, that nothing could break the bond you share. Love feels eternal, and the idea that it will last forever becomes a comforting belief. But what happens when that honeymoon phase fades away? When the initial excitement wears off and the reality of life sets in? Do you ever wonder if the expectations you had about marriage are still the same now? The truth is, marriage isn't just about the sweetness and the love. It's about navigating the challenges that come with living together, making decisions together, and growing as individuals and partners. The hidden disappointments. There are realities of marriage that often remain hidden until we're deep within the relationship. Marriage is rarely as simple as we expect. In the beginning, everything feels magical, but as time goes on, things begin to change. We sometimes fail to see the sacrifices that are silently expected of us. The loss of individuality is one of the first things that can happen when you become too wrapped up in the relationship. At first, both partners come together with excitement, but slowly, the balance between me and we begins to shift. When we love someone, we often put them first. But there comes a point when we may find ourselves asking, "Who am I in this relationship?" It's easy to lose track of our own identity in the process of constantly giving to the other person. Have you ever felt like you've lost a part of yourself while giving to someone you love? Marriage can also bring sacrifices that sometimes go unnoticed. Small things like skipping out on time with friends or adjusting career goals may seem harmless at first. But over time, those small compromises can add up, leaving one partner feeling resentful or overwhelmed. Sometimes those sacrifices can feel like a loss of self, and that can lead to frustration and disappointment. Another hidden reality is the loss of spontaneity. Early in the marriage, everything is fresh and exciting. You're constantly learning new things about each other, and every day feels like an adventure. But after years of being together, the romance often fades, and routine takes over. The magic that once existed in your relationship starts to feel like a distant memory. The little gestures of love, the surprise notes, the spontaneous dates, the tender touches, begin to disappear, replaced by the everyday demands of life. What once felt like an effortless connection now requires conscious effort. Do you ever feel like you've stopped trying to keep the spark alive in your marriage? Marriage can be an incredibly fulfilling journey, but it's also one filled with challenges. The idealized vision we have of it often falls short of the reality. We must confront the sacrifices, the changes, and the compromises that come with the promise we make. But what is the deeper truth behind marriage? What can we do to overcome the disappointments and reconnect with the love that brought us together? In the next section, we will explore how we can navigate the psychological dynamics of marriage and begin to truly understand ourselves and our partners in a deeper way. Stay tuned for Part 3, Psychological Development in Marriage. Part 3, Psychological Development in Marriage. Marriage isn't just about two people coming together and living happily ever after. It's a journey filled with complexities that extend beyond the surface level of love, happiness, and companionship. As time goes on, psychological changes begin to take root in the relationship, influencing the way we interact with our partners and with ourselves. One of the most significant aspects of marriage is the psychological development that occurs over time. In this section, we'll explore how marriage affects our sense of identity, the expectations we place on each other, and how the psychology of control can subtly creep into the relationship. Loss of individual identity. In the early stages of marriage, it's easy to be swept up in the excitement of shared life and the joy of merging two worlds into one. But over time, something subtle happens. We begin to lose track of who we are as individuals. This is a process that happens slowly, almost imperceptibly, and often without either partner realizing it. Take, for example, a couple named Sarah and John. When they first got married, they were both very independent. Sarah had her career, her hobbies, and her friends. John had his passions, his own circle of friends, and personal goals. They enjoyed their time together, but also valued the space they had as individuals. But as the years passed, things started to change. Sarah began to put more and more energy into their shared life. Her career goals shifted to accommodate John's needs. She stopped spending time with her friends, thinking it was more important to spend evenings with John. At first, it didn't feel like much of a sacrifice, but over time, she realized that she had started to lose the sense of who she was outside of the relationship. She stopped pursuing her own passions and dreams, instead focusing on their life together. John, while not intentionally demanding this shift, had also become more absorbed in their shared life, and over time, Sarah began to feel disconnected from herself. Her identity had slowly become entangled with John's, and she struggled to remember what she enjoyed doing before they were a couple. Have you ever felt like your personal goals and passions started to fade once you were married? How much of yourself have you given up for the sake of your relationship, and at what cost? The loss of individuality is often one of the first psychological shifts that happens in marriage. It's not always a conscious decision, but over time, it can create deep internal struggles. When one partner loses sight of who they are outside the relationship, it can lead to feelings of resentment, frustration, and confusion. And without realizing it, the balance between we and me becomes skewed. Unmet expectations. In marriage, we all come into the relationship with certain expectations. We expect our partner to meet our needs, to understand our emotions, and to provide the kind of love we envision. But when those expectations aren't met, it creates tension. One of the most common sources of conflict in marriage is the feeling of being misunderstood or emotionally neglected. For example, consider the case of Jack and Emily. Jack has always been someone who thrives on communication and emotional support. He expects Emily to notice when he's feeling down, to ask him how his day went, and to provide the kind of empathy that makes him feel seen and heard. But Emily, while loving, is often caught up in her own world. She's busy with work, managing the household, and focusing on her own emotional needs. She doesn't always notice when Jack is struggling, and when he does express his frustration, she doesn't always respond in the way he hopes. Jack begins to feel that Emily doesn't truly understand him. He repeatedly asks, "Why didn't you notice my sadness?" This question becomes a recurring theme in their conversations, leading to a sense of emotional disconnect between them. Emily, on the other hand, feels like she's doing everything she can and doesn't understand why Jack feels neglected. This is a perfect example of how unmet expectations can erode the foundation of a relationship. Jack's need for emotional validation wasn't met, and as a result, he felt invisible. Emily, while not intentionally ignoring Jack, failed to see the depth of his emotional needs. Over time, their emotional disconnect grew, leading to frustration and resentment on both sides. How often have you felt that your partner didn't understand your emotional needs? Do you ever feel like you're giving so much of yourself but not receiving the same attention in return? The truth is, we all come into marriage with unspoken expectations. We expect our partner to read our minds, to understand our needs without us having to say a word. But when those expectations go unmet, they often lead to deeper emotional wounds. The key to overcoming this is open, honest communication. Marriage is about learning to understand and meet each other's needs, not assuming the other person will always know what you want. Psychology of control in love. One of the more subtle and dangerous psychological shifts in marriage is the psychology of control. In many cases, control in marriage is disguised as love and care. It starts with small things, like wanting your partner to wear certain clothes or making suggestions about what they should eat. But over time, these small actions can snowball into a larger issue of control, slowly eroding your partner's autonomy. Take the example of Tom and Lily. Tom loves to tell Lily what to wear when they go out. He always comments on her outfits, saying, "I think this would look better on you," or "You shouldn't wear that." At first, Lily brushes it off as a harmless suggestion, but over time, it starts to feel like Tom is trying to control her appearance. She begins to feel like her personal choices aren't respected, and her sense of autonomy begins to diminish. This subtle control doesn't stop at clothing. Tom might also make comments about what Lily should eat, how much she should exercise, or even how she should behave in social settings. What started as suggestions becomes an unhealthy pattern of control disguised as care. Do you ever feel like your partner is subtly trying to control aspects of your life, even if they say it's for your own good? How can you ensure that love in marriage remains free of control and fosters mutual respect for each other's individuality? The psychology of control in love often begins with good intentions. A partner may believe they are offering helpful advice or suggestions, but over time, it can turn into a pattern of behavior that restricts the other person's freedom and undermines their self-esteem. In healthy relationships, both partners should feel free to make decisions without fear of judgment or control. As we explore the psychological changes that happen within marriage, it becomes clear that the journey is more complex than we initially think. Loss of identity, unmet expectations, and subtle control can have a significant impact on the relationship. Understanding these psychological dynamics is the first step toward healing and growth. In the next section, we'll look at how marriage can evolve as we work through these psychological challenges and grow together. Stay tuned for Part 4, Marriage and the Reality of Change. Part 4, Marriage and the Reality of Change. Marriage, like everything in life, is subject to change. When we first fall in love, everything feels new and exciting. The emotions are intense, the connection feels unbreakable, and every day spent with your partner is a gift. But over time, the reality of impermanence sets in. The initial joy can transform into something far less romantic. The burdens, the routine, and the evolving dynamics of a relationship. Impermanence in marriage. Marriage at its core is an ever-evolving relationship. It doesn't remain static. What begins as a joyful connection often changes in unexpected ways, and these changes can either strengthen the bond or weaken it. In the early stages, everything is filled with passion, discovery, and shared excitement. Each moment feels like a new adventure, full of possibility and promise. But as the years go by, the energy that once felt fresh and vibrant can begin to fade. The challenges of life, the routines of daily existence, and the responsibilities that come with building a life together start to overshadow the initial bliss. The love that once felt eternal may now feel more like a commitment. The spontaneity, the thrill of discovering each other, gradually shifts into a more predictable pattern. The question arises, what happened to the connection we once shared so freely? Consider the example of Mark and Laura. In the beginning, their relationship was everything they had dreamed of. They couldn't get enough of each other. They spent hours talking, laughing, and exploring the world together. But after years of marriage, things began to change. They had children, work became demanding, and life's pressures started taking a toll on their relationship. What was once filled with excitement and new experiences became a routine of daily chores and obligations. Do you remember the joy you first felt when you started your relationship? Have you noticed that the initial spark starts to fade over time? The impermanence of marriage is not a negative thing. It's simply part of the natural flow of life. As people, we change, grow, and evolve, and so does our relationship. But understanding this impermanence is crucial. Marriage is not meant to be static. It's a living, breathing connection that requires attention, care, and effort to keep it thriving through all the changes that life brings. The reality of stagnation and boredom. As time passes, many couples find themselves falling into a rut. What once felt like an exciting adventure begins to feel like a monotonous routine. The spontaneity that once characterized the relationship is replaced by predictability, and the days begin to blend together. The early years of passionate love can sometimes give way to a sense of stagnation, where everything feels like it's on autopilot. Take the case of Claire and Daniel. When they first married, their life together felt full of possibilities. They were constantly discovering new things about each other and sharing exciting experiences. But as time went on, their routine became set. They had their jobs, their children, their obligations. What was once fresh and new became predictable, and their relationship started to feel like another item on their long to-do list. Each day became more about the logistics of life rather than the joy of sharing it together. They still loved each other, but the excitement was gone. They found themselves talking less, spending less quality time together, and becoming more like roommates than passionate partners. The love they once shared felt like it had been buried under the weight of everyday life. Has your relationship ever fallen into a routine that felt more like an obligation than a joy? What happens when the excitement of discovery fades, and you're left with the responsibilities of marriage? This sense of stagnation is a common experience for many couples. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that love is something that should remain constant and unchanging. But the reality is that relationships, like all things in life, need attention and care. Without effort, they can become stuck in a cycle of routine and obligation, and the spark that once ignited the connection can start to dim. The death of mystery and the rise of expectation. One of the most significant changes that happens in a long-term relationship is the loss of mystery. When we first meet someone, everything about them is new and exciting. We're constantly learning about each other, discovering new quirks, habits, and preferences. This sense of mystery keeps the relationship fresh and exciting. But over time, the more we learn about each other, the less mystery remains. What once felt like endless exploration can feel more like a well-trodden path. The excitement of discovery fades, and what was once thrilling becomes ordinary. The question, "Can you love after the 50th argument?" captures this shift perfectly. What happens when the same conversations, the same issues, and the same challenges arise time and time again? Take the example of Ben and Lucy. When they first got married, their relationship was filled with excitement. They couldn't wait to get home to each other at the end of the day. They were fascinated by each other's thoughts, perspectives, and personalities. But after many years of marriage, they found themselves having the same arguments over and over again. The discussions about finances, the kids, and household chores became routine. The thrill of getting to know each other faded, and in its place, there was a sense of obligation to work through problems that had already been discussed. Have you ever felt like you've already heard all the stories your partner has to tell? Do the same arguments or issues keep resurfacing in your marriage, leaving you feeling stuck? This is where the shift from romantic love to long-term reality becomes most apparent. The mystery that once made everything exciting gives way to routine. The expectation of continuous growth and excitement begins to clash with the reality of everyday life. This shift can leave couples feeling emotionally dry, wondering if the love they once shared can survive the monotony of the routine. Expectations, when not managed or communicated, can further deepen the emotional disconnect. Over time, partners may begin to feel like they are not living up to each other's expectations. These unmet expectations can create tension, leading to frustration and disappointment. But the key to navigating this change is acceptance. Accepting that the honeymoon phase has passed and that marriage in its long-term reality is about creating new ways to connect, communicate, and grow. As we've explored, marriage is a dynamic, ever-evolving relationship. The impermanence of marriage, the inevitable changes, and the shift from romantic love to long-term realities are all part of the journey. The challenge is not to avoid these changes, but to embrace them, adapt to them, and find new ways to keep the love alive. In the next section, we'll explore how marriage can evolve when we accept these changes and create deeper, more meaningful connections with our partners. Stay tuned for Part 5, Marriage, Ego, and Self-Discovery. Part 5, Marriage, Ego, and Self-Discovery. Marriage, at its best, is a partnership that allows both individuals to grow together. However, it is also a place where egos clash. The ego, that part of us that seeks to protect and defend our sense of self, plays a pivotal role in shaping the dynamics of a relationship. While love is the foundation of marriage, it's often the battles between two egos that challenge the connection between partners. In this section, we will explore how the ego affects marriage, the conflicts it creates, and how these struggles can be opportunities for personal growth and self-discovery. The role of ego. When two people come together in marriage, they don't just bring love, they bring their egos with them. Ego is not inherently negative, it's simply the part of us that wants to be understood, respected, and valued. In a relationship, the ego may lead us to protect ourselves, justify our actions, and assert our needs. But it also has the potential to create tension, especially when both partners are fighting for their egos. Consider a couple, Alex and Mia. They had been married for several years, and while they deeply loved each other, their egos often led to conflict. One evening, after a long day at work, Mia had a minor disagreement with Alex over something trivial: who should cook dinner that night. But rather than resolving it calmly, both began to argue, each defending their position. Mia believed that Alex should have offered to cook, while Alex felt that Mia had been too demanding and wasn't recognizing how tired he was. As the argument escalated, the question, "Can you apologize when you feel right?" echoed in both their minds. Neither wanted to admit fault because each was protecting their ego. For Mia, apologizing meant acknowledging that she was wrong, and for Alex, it meant surrendering control. In the heat of the moment, neither was willing to let go of their pride. This tension grew not because of the issue itself, but because both felt their ego was being challenged. Have you ever been in a situation where you knew your partner was wrong, but found it difficult to apologize or let go of your own pride? How often does the ego get in the way of resolving conflicts in your relationship? The conflict between ego and sacrifice. In the beginning, marriage may feel like an effortless partnership, where both people are willing to compromise and sacrifice for the other. However, as time goes on, the balance between giving and receiving can shift. What once felt like a natural flow of compromise can slowly turn into a struggle for control. The ego demands more, and the willingness to sacrifice becomes harder. Take Sarah and Ethan, a couple who had been married for 10 years. At the start of their marriage, they were both deeply committed to making each other happy. Ethan would sacrifice his time to attend events Sarah enjoyed, and Sarah would give up personal plans to support Ethan's career. It seemed like a balanced give and take, and both were willing to bend for each other. But over time, something began to shift. Sarah started to feel like she was constantly the one making compromises. Why always me? She thought, feeling like Ethan was never willing to give up his own plans for her. Ethan, on the other hand, felt the same way. He began to feel that Sarah was always the one to initiate sacrifices, while he was expected to meet her needs without any effort on her part. The question, "Why should I bend?" began to rise in both of them, and resentment grew. Their once balanced sacrifices turned into a silent struggle of who gives more. Each partner's ego demanded recognition for the sacrifices they had made, and this slowly eroded the connection between them. Have you ever found yourself asking, "Why always me?" in your marriage? Is your willingness to sacrifice for your partner starting to feel like an obligation rather than an act of love? The conflict between ego and sacrifice is a significant challenge in long-term marriages. It's natural for the ego to want validation, but in a healthy relationship, both partners should find a way to meet each other's needs without keeping score. Sacrifice should come from a place of love, not from the need to prove that one person is giving more than the other. Opportunities for self-discovery. One of the most profound aspects of marriage is its ability to serve as a mirror for self-discovery. When you marry someone, you aren't just committing to them. You're committing to facing parts of yourself that you may have never fully acknowledged before. The conflicts, challenges, and emotional struggles in marriage often reveal our deepest wounds, fears, and unresolved issues. Take the example of Maria and David. When they first got married, everything seemed perfect. They were in love, and they couldn't imagine life without each other. But as the years passed, David's tendency to become defensive during arguments started to frustrate Maria. She often felt like David wasn't listening to her, and this led to many heated conversations. One day, during a particularly intense argument, Maria realized something about herself. She had always been afraid of being unheard, of her emotions being dismissed. David's defensiveness was triggering this fear. But it wasn't really about him. It was about her own unresolved wounds. This realization was painful, but also freeing. Maria understood that David's behavior was simply reflecting her own fear, and it wasn't a reflection of how he felt about her. She began to work on healing that wound and communicate her emotions more openly. David, in turn, began to recognize how his defensiveness was hindering their relationship, and he worked on becoming more open to her needs. Marriage, in this way, acts as a catalyst for self-awareness. It pushes us to confront parts of ourselves that we might have ignored or buried. The beauty of marriage is that, through these challenges, we can grow and evolve together. Rather than seeing conflicts as obstacles, we can view them as opportunities for self-discovery and personal growth. Have you ever had a moment in your marriage where a conflict revealed something deep about yourself? How has your relationship helped you understand and confront your own fears or insecurities? In marriage, the ego plays a crucial role in shaping the dynamics of the relationship. The struggles between two egos, fighting for validation, control, and sacrifice, can either build or break the connection. But the true beauty of marriage lies in its potential for self-discovery. As we navigate the challenges, we uncover parts of ourselves we may not have known existed, and in doing so, we grow together. In the next section, we will wrap up our exploration of marriage with some final reflections, offering insights into how we can move forward with more awareness, understanding, and love in our relationships. Stay tuned for Part 6, Conclusion and Final Reflection. Part 6, Conclusion and Final Reflection. As we come to the end of this journey, let's take a moment to reflect on the key lessons we've learned about marriage. Marriage, like life itself, is ever-changing. It is a dynamic union where both partners evolve and grow, sometimes together, sometimes apart. We've explored how the ego, expectations, and the impermanence of life shape the dynamics of a relationship. But at its heart, marriage is about self-awareness, non-attachment, and embracing change. These are the keys to creating a harmonious, fulfilling partnership. Key lessons learned. First and foremost, we've learned that self-awareness is crucial. In a marriage, it's easy to lose sight of who you are as an individual. But the healthiest relationships are those where both partners can maintain their sense of self. This awareness allows you to grow together without losing yourself in the process. Have you reflected on your own self-awareness in your relationship? Do you ever feel like your identity has become too tied up in your marriage? Next, we've explored the idea of non-attachment. This doesn't mean detaching from your partner emotionally, but rather from the need to control the outcome. Life is unpredictable, and so is marriage. Accepting that things may change, that the person you marry today may not be the same person 10 years from now, can free you from unrealistic expectations. Letting go of this attachment to perfection opens the door for deeper, more authentic love. Are you holding on too tightly to the way things should be? How can you allow your marriage to evolve naturally, without forcing it into a mold? Lastly, we've learned about the importance of accepting impermanence. Every relationship, like every person, changes over time. What begins as a passionate, exciting love may transform into a deep, steady companionship. This doesn't mean the love has faded, but rather that it's matured. Understanding this allows you to appreciate the quiet moments and to embrace the natural ebb and flow of your connection. Can you accept the changes that come with the passage of time? What beauty can you find in the quieter, steadier moments of marriage? Encourage mindful action. As we reflect on these lessons, I encourage you to approach your marriage not just as a source of comfort, but as an opportunity to awaken and grow. Marriage is not just about avoiding challenges or seeking constant happiness. It is a journey, full of opportunities to develop greater awareness, compassion, and understanding. Each day together is a chance to learn more about yourself and your partner. How can you bring mindfulness into your relationship? What changes can you make to approach marriage with a deeper awareness of its impermanence? Embrace the freedom within your marriage. When you let go of rigid expectations and control, you open up space for both partners to thrive as individuals and as a couple. In the end, marriage is not a destination. It's a process of ongoing development, a beautiful journey where both partners continually learn, adapt, and evolve. My final piece of advice is this: live with presence. Marriage, like any part of life, is a series of moments. If you're constantly looking ahead, worried about the future, or clinging to the past, you miss the opportunity to experience the beauty of the present. Take time to appreciate the small moments, the quiet moments, the shared glances. Question your motivations and ask yourself, why do I love this person? What am I contributing to this relationship? In doing so, you will not only strengthen your bond, but also develop a deeper connection with yourself. Are you truly present in your marriage? How can you shift your focus to the now to create a deeper and more meaningful connection? I want to take a moment to express my deepest gratitude to all of you for joining me on this journey. By watching this video, you've taken a step toward greater self-awareness and growth in your relationship. I congratulate you for seeking knowledge, for being open to new perspectives, and for wanting to improve your life. Marriage is a path that can lead to great transformation if we approach it with mindfulness and intention. I encourage you to practice these insights in your daily life. Don't just let these lessons stay as ideas. Put them into action in your marriage. Embrace change, let go of control, and grow together with your partner. The results will not be immediate, but over time, They will bring you closer, strengthen your bond, and bring a deeper sense of fulfillment to your relationship. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe to the Son.Mindfulness channel and continue to support our community. Leave a comment below to share your thoughts. I'd love to hear your experiences and reflections. Wishing you all health, peace, happiness, and a lifetime of love in your marriage. Thank you.